The Maryland General Assembly convened last week with headlines bemoaning the fact that there may not be enough funds to pay for the big policy ambitions of government. Mike, to steal a line from Shakespeare, double, double, toil and trouble. Governor Moore promises to make Maryland safer, affordable, and competitive without raising taxes. What is he, a magician? How's he going to do that?
Well, he's actually going to do what smart elected officials do when you move money around. And so we're already seeing where higher education is taking a hit, and we're seeing where those resources are being brought out into juvenile justice and other programs. And so I expect that we're going to see, at least in the budget that the governor has put forward, it's a balanced budget. It moves a number of programs around. It reduces a number of programs. But I think that the challenge is going to be, what does the General Assembly do? Because that's the place where then everybody goes to plead their case, and will be the interesting challenge, knowing that we can probably get through this year with a lot of things, but that the real challenge is going to be next year. And so how do they make sure that they've set themselves up going into a structural deficit, making the appropriate reductions?
Well, it's not just the operational budget, but it's the long-term capital budget. And Stacey, there was a big announcement before the session about $3.4 billion worth of transportation cuts having to be made. How does this impact Marylanders if they're going to be cutting all these road programs?
I'm rolling my eyes right now, Mike, Casey, because whenever I hear about transportation issues, the first thing I start to think about is the purple line and the boondoggle that was because of the cost overrun. So it's possible with this $3.4 billion cut, we might actually end up saving money in the long run. Who knows? And also that the state is supposed to be getting several $billion from the federal government due to the infrastructure bill. So, I wonder how much of that is going to make up the loss here.
Well, we'll see. Mike, in the District of Columbia, they just pivoted on some of their crime initiatives that had relaxed sentencing for individuals. Particularly in Maryland, juvenile justice is going to be addressed, and most Marylanders endorse an approach to being tougher on youth crime. Is that what we're going to see?
I think that seems to be a consistent message with everybody. I think one of the challenges, and we've talked about this on this show before, is I think there needs to be a stiffer approach to how you address juvenile crime. At the same time, I think it's pretty clear that there's a correlation back to the mental health issues that we're seeing as well. And so how do you marry those two issues up to begin to address the mental health, the challenges that we're seeing across the state and across the country, and at the same time, make sure that we are addressing the crime issue in a meaningful way? And I don't think it's going to be a binary, we do this or we do that. I think those programs are going to have to be brought together in an effective way, and that's going to be a challenge.
So, Stacey, this isn't really a General Assembly issue, but it's going to be an initiative on the ballot in November. Last year, the General Assembly passed the Maryland Right to Reproductive Freedom, which will change the Constitution of Maryland from the 1992 amendment that was passed that ensured a woman's right to an abortion up to viability. This amendment seems to open the door for late-term abortions. Is this going to be a big fight?
I actually think that it will. First of all, the logic behind this is that it's easier to undo a statutory protection rather than a constitutional one. So, and I think that there are a lot of people, keep in mind that there are approximately 1 million Catholics in this area. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this unfolds because there are already protections in place.
Well, that's the whole point, is that the 1992 amendment, it was passed after Roe v. Wade to ensure a woman's right to an abortion, but they did recognize that there should be some limit on this. Already the proponents are very vocal, but I haven't seen much from anyone opposing it. So we'll have to wait and see what happens in the future.
No, and I don't think it's a bad thing to try to address this, to kind of recognize the challenges that other states are putting out there. When you look at, we have 14 states that effectively taken abortion out of legal play whatsoever, to make sure that it's codified in the Constitution in Maryland, to make sure that we reflect the changes that happened 30 years later. I appreciate we did in 1992, but we're in a very different landscape and a very different environment today than we were then. And while I don't think it's to open up necessarily the process for late-term abortions, I think it's really just to make sure that we have statutorily addressed the right to a woman's right to choose in a way that recognizes the political landscape in 2024.
Well, I think if you, Mike, not to disagree with you here, but I mean, if you read the text and you read the ballot question certainly says vote yes to ensure the ability to make and effectuate decisions to prevent, continue, or end one's pregnancy with no time limit.
Mhm.
I think the clear undertone is that it's going to open up late term abortions.
Well, I don't think that'll be the outcome. I think it's more to respond to what we're seeing in the other jurisdictions and make sure that Maryland is not going to go down that road. And I don't think that we will, but I think this will help to ensure that that's the case.
Well, we're gonna have to wait. Stacey, you have anything else on this?
Yeah,
If not,
actually, I think that
we got to move on to our next topic.
we're going down a rabbit hole with this. We've got West Virginia that doesn't allow abortions. We're going to start having an industry here, and I think it's really sad.